Let's start this meeting. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And no public comment, so let's proceed into the finance action items.
Perfect. Good morning, Dr. Randalls and committee members. Just one action item this month, and that's the purchasing agenda. And I just want to point out, attached to your packet, as you'll see the purchasing agenda, we're asking for approval to make a major purchase of hardware technology from the bond funds. We've spent some time investigating what's best for both the staff and students, and given the number of units we need to purchase and the ability to get it rolled out over a time frame, we are coming to you today to get approval to begin that. The plan is, as Memo stated, would first equip our building staff and administrators with their devices. That would happen after the first of the calendar year here, and so by next spring, all staff and building staff and administrators would have their devices in place. And then the student devices will begin rolling out fall of next year. The exact order of rollout has not yet been determined. We look at a number of things, including age of the current devices they have. Certainly, as we open new buildings, for instance, the museum high school will wait and equip those students when that high school opens. Same with like a Buchanan that we're building new. So there's factors involved in who gets what first, when, but all staff will have devices in their hands and trained how to use those devices by next spring, enable them to utilize both the administrative functions of their roles, the Synergy student accounting software we acquired a year and a half ago, as well as the device will give them access to educational tools online. And we have a initiative going currently to look at all the educational software and curriculums, and there will be a recommendation coming from that group farther down the road in terms of what software to buy. The devices that we are acquiring for both students and staff and administrators, any educational software we acquire can run on those. Most of it now is cloud-based anyways, and all these devices have access to that. So the hardware will not drive the software decision, because, as I mentioned, all software pretty much runs on any kind of devices, whether it's an Apple product or a Microsoft-based product, if you will. So I've got Craig here, our technology director, so if any further questions on that particular issue, Craig certainly can answer them.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
On replacement insurance, for damaged equipment, my experience in the middle school is that many of our students did not respect the technology, and were actually, no matter how much monitoring we did, there were damages that occurred to the equipment. So, do we have a plan in place for an insurance or some mode of replacement of those items, that technology?
Yeah. You can speak to that security too, Craig, if you would.
Morning.
Morning.
Dr. Flores, to answer your question, yes. So the purchases of both staff and student devices we have coupled with an insurance policy, depending on the vendor. Apple, for example, has a program that they offer with their devices. Dell has a similar program, and also there are some third-party insurance pieces that we can snap together. So in short, what we've done is provided with each device an insurance policy that would allow us with breakage, damage, even the accidental protection type of insurance. So, I left it in my bag, and the things that happen to kids regularly, where I left it in my bag and someone stepped on it, sort of a thing. Even that would be covered by our insurance rider, so we can do replacement of screens, keyboards, all those sorts of damages. So our intention is to maintain that in this initial purchase for 3 years for all student and staff devices. In addition, as Larry kind of alluded, we've included a security component that's baked into the devices so that we're able to, in the event of a loss, track a device to its location as long as it stays on the network. And it's the type of a security device that we've actually been purchasing for devices for some time that is baked in such a way where even if you replace a hard drive or got a tech-savvy person who reimages the device or some other kind of low-level can't remove this agent. So that helps us deal with loss prevention and just that level of security.
Excellent, thank you.
We'll also mention, and we don't have all the specifics of the initial training identified yet, but as we've talked internally, that would be part of the initial, it'd be one component of the initial training. Security involved, the do's and don'ts of the device, i.e. don't leave it in your car in a public place because people could break into it, things like that. So we'll develop that piece of the initial training also to inform folks just how to take care of that device and try to minimize loss, if you will, and just some common sense things of having that thing, because it will be theirs, and they can take it, at least the staff and administration, they can take it home with them on a regular basis, if you will. So that's all being developed too as we talk. We just need to get the hardware piece in place because there's some lead time to get things manufactured and delivered to us. And as I mentioned, the rollout's going to take place over 2 to 3 years now, as we based on, as I said earlier, a plan which we're still finalizing. So.
Great. Really exciting to be able to take the bond dollars and reward the teachers with some new technology. I think they've needed it for a long time overall in the district, so that is really fabulous. And then if they can take the equipment home and use it, so they're using the same stuff, that is great. I know at my own work, it's network cloud-based, and you can't take it home, it won't work. And which is fine, I use my own computer at home, but some people may not have another computer that is as robust, and so you get used to one system. So that's really great. You had mentioned, or I've read somewhere about committee sort of looking at what we need for technology. Could you speak to that in terms of who's on that committee and just more for
the educational curriculum we're talking about?
Education curriculum and our electronic needs.
I think it was mentioned as an ad hoc technology group.
Yeah, I mean, it's Craig, it's myself, it's some folks from curriculum. They've looked at the hardware side of things, and we certainly rely a lot on Craig's
Any
knowledge.
educators, on it?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
great.
then the educational software is staffed mostly with educators. Ron Gorman is heading that committee to look at. As you can well imagine, as I got into it, and again, I'm obviously not an educator, the plethora of educational software out there is just, it'll make your head spin. And so we have obviously educators who know what needs to be done and what's important for our students, what works for our students. We'll take a look at that. But as I said earlier, anything that's acquired on the software side will run on any of the devices we have, because virtually all of it's cloud-based, and what isn't will be shortly. So,
And to that end, we're actually, some of the things that we'll be able to do once, right now, staff aren't at a level playing field in terms of being able to have an up-to-date device that they can rely on in all school buildings. And so being able to level that playing field allows us to do some of the upgrades and really just the forward thinking in terms of keeping staff up to date with their capabilities. To that end, our expectation is that as it stands today, staff at the end of a school year are required to turn their devices in at the end of the school year. We can do updates, maintain inventory, that sort of thing, and we expect that the same thing will happen here, and this will give us an opportunity this summer to do significant upgrades so that their experience coming back in the fall is they're still current. It's the next new thing, whatever we can provide to them, whether it be decisions made by the instructional team, whether it be just administrative functions. So that's, that I think that will be a benefit to all staff.
Great. Well, I think it's great to hear too, and I figured there would be educators on some of these committees as well, but just continuing that inclusion and everyone participating in the positive forward motion of GRPS is great. Okay, wonderful. So do we need to approve this, or is it in the?
Yeah, the purchasing agenda, the devices are
Yeah.
included in the purchasing agenda, so I don't know if there's any other questions on the agenda, but yeah, we'll need
Yeah.
that, your approval, take that for board, approval at the next board meeting.
Yeah, there are quite a few other things in this purchasing agenda. Anyone have any other questions about it? And I'll just note that I am an employee of Cherry Health is their new name, not Cherry Street Health Services, Cherry Health, but the services. But I can recuse myself, but I don't have to, but it's one of these things that I'll just mention. So can I get a motion to approve the purchasing?
So moved.
Support?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. On we go. Reports and updates.
Yeah, we're down to the reports section. The first item there is the October financial statements. The actual report is included in your packet. We are through October. We're tracking the expense side where we expected, the same on the revenue side, although we do know now with the certified enrollment from the October count within last week or week and a half, I think, for 2 weeks. As we all were aware, there's an increase in enrollment. Our revenue budget was based on fewer students, so as I mentioned, I think last month, typically we bring the first budget amendment to the board, either January or the first board meeting in February. That will reflect all, really what we know for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, including additional revenue from new students and things like that. So, but as we stand now through 4 months of the year, things are tracking appropriately from a budget perspective. So,
Great. So just that revised count issue, we'll get that budget still in January.
amendment to reflect that,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, either second meeting in January or probably it's February. We'll probably bring it to the finance committee in January. And then the first board meeting in February, show the timing of that. So we need to wait till we close out December and before we make some projections for the last 6 months of the year. But we do know we have some additional revenue from the additional enrollment, which will be helpful, so.
Yeah, really nice.
The second item there on the reports is really what we just talked about. That was an additional memo on the hardware, so I think we've discussed that, and I guess we'll now turn over to Ken and items he has.
Warm, safe, and dry. The update packets the update is in your packet. The Ottawa Hills Pool, we have some issues in the tunnel that are code issues from the inspector that we have to finish up. They don't affect the operation of the pool. The university, we are working on the landscaping and fence along the north edge. The landscaping, most of it was in before the holiday, and the fence is on order, and that will finish up that project. C.A. Frost Middle High, which is both warm, safe, and dry, and bond. We have some punch list items we're working on. We still have some heat balancing issues to finish up. The gym was completed. I'm not sure if they moved in or not. It was finishing up right before the holiday, along with the E-Labs. So we're very close to having those available if they're not using them already. And otherwise, that project's winding down. On the bond side, our Buchanan Advisory Committee, we've completed that, and I want to show you the layout for the building in a moment. We had identified this Thursday as our public informational meeting. we set that without remembering there was a holiday in there. So we may have to reschedule if we can't get information out to the public adequately. I want to make sure that people have enough notice to plan to come. So we'll revisit that today. But I do want to show you where we are on Buchanan, and you may want to move back a little bit to see. And can we dim the lights? Is there someone in?
There's a button by
Hold it in here?
front. It's by the flags, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Couple of things, and keep in mind, these are just building blocks to give some concept of size. The colors are only to distinguish between different items. This is part of the existing building. This is the 1995 addition. And the existing building came up here and was a big reverse C shape. One of the charges was to keep the building open the entire time. So in looking at what we want to do, we made the determination it would be wise to keep the 95 addition intact and reutilize that. So this is existing. The new entry where it says admin is actually the media center, and we'll have the new entry here. We'll refurbish these classrooms, restrooms, and then the rest of this building would be new. A new cafeteria here. That allows us to have a secondary entry in the morning for students arriving who might go straight to the cafeteria for breakfast. If there's an event, the cafeteria would double as a multi-purpose room. We could use that at night and have a secondary entrance. During the daytime, everything will be locked down except the main entry through the administration. It will give direct access to these classrooms and then over to this bank of classrooms. This is 3 stories high. What this does for us is, other than the 3rd story, all these classrooms and the first 2 stories here will have an at-grade egress. Code requires that pre-K, K, and 1 egress at grade, and 2nd grade must be within 1 floor of an at-grade egress. What we were trying to avoid is unintended consequence at Chavez, a multi-story. We're tight on ground floor rooms, and in some time pre-K tends to be the fallout there, and we're trying to maximize. So in this, I believe we would have 18 classrooms with at-grade egress and give us that flexibility. The grade actually drops off. This corner is about a full story lower than this part of the site. So it allows that to be built right into the hill. New gym, my pointer's going goofy. New gym, new media center, and then we can build most of this while school's in session. We may have to do some second shift work. The cafeteria, when that gets built, will impact the current playground. Then the summer of 18, we will have to go in, tear all of this down, rebuild parking lots, start working on the playground, and refurbish all of this during that 10-week period. A couple of things this does for us is it allows us to have an enclosed pre-K and K playground here. From a safety standpoint, when those younger ages are out, they're outdoors on a playground, but they're safe. They can't leave the site. Their entries are back into the building here or here. We've done this at both Harrison and Burton and found it very successful. Then we will develop this portion of the playground. Typically, we split equipment between early L and upper L, and there's been a request for some kind of field similar to what they have at Chavez here. That layout, we have a lot of work to do on how that gets determined, but this will be the area. It gives a direct access in and out from the cafeteria, for especially around lunchtime, to go from from cafeteria to playground and back and forth. Parking, We've got 2 entries and exits, an entry here off from Buchanan into the lot, and then an exit where you can turn both ways, and an entry and exit, I believe that's Brown up there, an entry and exit here. So you have some choices if you don't like turning onto Buchanan, if you'd rather go out into the neighborhood or go up and turn at the 4-way stop, you have some options. And that's the basic layout of the building as we're planning right now.
Nice.
The one thing we did wrestle with is everything is set back from Buchanan quite a bit, but to leave the existing building intact, we had to work from the vacant areas and what's available to us. So it will certainly be visible from Buchanan. We did try to keep the multi-story areas like the gym and this on areas that are already have grade issues. You can see some of these boxes are existing houses, and really just to show they're multi-story already. We don't believe that the massing will be an impact on the neighborhood. We've tried to place it as best we could on the site.
A
Questions?
lot of effort went into it. Anyone got any questions?
When do you hope to start construction again? Do you know yet?
As soon as school's out, if
Okay.
not earlier.
Yeah.
The 2 projects, this one and the Museum High School, to be open for the fall of 18, down to 18 months, and
Yeah, really.
it's going fast,
Right.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Can you turn the lights back on, please?
Wonderful. I think it shows a lot of
Looks good.
consideration of use and, yeah, so wonderful.
I really thought we pushed really hard to keep as many classrooms as possible with at-grade egress. We don't know what will happen in the future, and not all of them will have an in-class restroom, but at least they have the capability and the flexibility for the lower grades without tying our hands.
Great. I did have a couple questions. GRPS University, the fence, if you could just speak about, is that a little bit of a sort of privacy fence? I only bring it up because there were complaints that board meetings.
The university parking lot, we had a landscaping plan. We met with neighborhood representatives on a number of occasions. They actually wanted a block brick wall built. There's issues with the city plant zoning code for that. We went back probably 3 weeks ago now, after we looked into, and that wall would have been well over $100,000. So we went back with a plan, a combination of landscaping and fencing that has some limited visibility, but also meets the CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design standards that Mr. Johnson supports so strongly, to try and accomplish both things for the neighbors. We keep it open enough that we don't create a safety issue, and yet we provide screening to the parking lot. And that's what we're proceeding with.
And then one other thing, the city boiler had broke already, and that was our brand-new boiler.
No, what we put, the boiler that went down is a 30-year-old boiler.
Okay.
And both of them went down. What we put in new were the controls for it.
Okay,
It was a unit on the boiler itself that failed,
okay,
and that's why we lost heat at city.
okay.
So,
Different time, but, yeah, no.
but within, 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Right, that
we
we've
put in
had, right,
about
yeah.
$500,000 worth of heating controls, and they're really separate issues.
Okay.
In fact, whatever we do at city, we intend to reuse those controls and not just throw them away.
Right, great, good. Well, I thought I would follow up. I know we've authorized a lot of stuff with HVAC.
Good old
They didn't miss school on that anyway, so. They were plenty warm. Okay, wonderful. Good. And I think those were just updates, right? We don't need
Yes.
to patch anything for that. That was quite a bit of our packet. Anyone have any other comments, questions?
Just thank you, Ken, for the dashboard. That's really helpful to see the meeting dates for the advisory committee and the community-wide meetings. Helps us be responsible to our city, so thank you.
Yeah, good. So I think we're done with that. The policy action items, I guess, sustainability report?
Kristen has some good news to share.
Good news.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to share with you all a brief update on one of the projects I've been working on. So as you all know, we've been working on benchmarking all of our buildings, gas, electric, and water usage for all of our buildings, just so we can monitor changes month to month, year to year, see and compare to other similar types of buildings, how they're performing. So compared to the national average of a high school of this size, does our building perform, better, worse, average, and how does that vary across the district? And so we've done the benchmarking internally in-house, and because of that, we were approached by Consumers Energy. They wanted to assist us in achieving Energy Star certification. So through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy, they have a joint Energy Star program that labels, appliances as energy efficient, but also labels buildings as being energy efficient. And one barrier to getting that certification is that you need to hire a third-party engineer to, double check your calculations, to do a walkthrough, to make sure that, what is being submitted in paper in your application is actually can be verified and the building is as energy efficient as it appears to be. And so we have been working with Consumers Energy to certify 8 of our buildings as Energy Star. And that designation means that we have scored on a score of 0 to 100, we have scored at least a 75 or higher. And that means the building for its type, K-12 or a high school, in its climate region and in its size, performs better than 75% of comparable buildings across the U.S. And so we have submitted 8 buildings so far to be certified as Energy Star. 4 have been already approved, and that is Sherwood Park, Riverside, Ottawa Hills, and Brookside. And so that means those buildings are performing much better than average and much better than 75% of similar buildings across the U.S. It's great to have that recognition, but it's also helpful and will position us, I think, well to apply for grants in the future, whether those are from the state or further, grants or rebates from Consumers Energy, because typically when you go after grants like this, they want to make sure that you're doing whatever you can internally to use energy wisely, and you've gone ahead and you've benchmarked your building, you're evaluating your energy use, you're making adjustments where it's possible. And so having that certification is an outward sign or a recognition that you've met this universal standard and you're exceeding it. And so it's performing really well. We have 4 that we haven't heard back yet. We should probably hear back in the next 2 weeks, but we expect that they'll be approved as well.
Excellent.
Very good. Yeah, and those were not, maybe you guys knew that those buildings were performing fairly decently, but they're, it's not Chavez or Burton,
Right.
Places that we've
Right.
recently renovated, so.
Exactly. It shows that
really,
there's
yeah.
a lot of work that's being done with the existing buildings as they are to make sure that, we're using our energy wisely and efficiently. And so, yeah, it's not the massive renovated buildings or the newer buildings as you would expect, but we purposely targeted some of our older buildings to really evaluate and dig deep to see how they're performing.
Yeah, great. Good. Well, congratulations, that's awesome. Good to hear that there are grants, too.
Right.
It's not too miserable, or, you know, in terms of the sustainability thing, some more things to push after, and that's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anything else? No. Good. We are going to meet on the 19th, which, because school's still going on through the 22nd. So just mark it in your calendars. I think we did get one calendar invite, but it wasn't the right time, so,
Okay.
yeah. Good, wonderful. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.